You can listen to The Professional Left wherever you get your podcasts, on Netroots Radio, or at our website, proleftpod.com, where you can also contribute to this podcast. There's a PayPal button at our website, or you can mail us a letter and or contribution at P.O. Box 9133, Springfield, Illinois, 62791.
This is the podcast for June 3rd, 2022. It's not safe for work.
Recorded live from the Cornfield Resistance, where the GOP primaries are, as predicted, officially lit. It's The Professional Left with Driftglass and Blue Gal. Lit as hell, man. You can't even see the stars anymore. The fires are so bright.
Well, we've got several congressional races in the area.
Yeah.
And the primary is at the end of June here in Illinois.
Yeah.
So the ad campaigns are ratcheting up.
Yeah.
And we are fortunate, I believe, in that we have an open district.
Yes.
That has been gerrymandered by our, Democratic supermajority state legislature to be D+7.
Right.
And so hopefully that means we are definitely going to lose Rodney Davis because he's gone off to a safe red district north of here.
Well, he's running against a bunch of other lunatics.
He's running against Mary Miller. He and Mary Miller are going at it. Yes.
And I have, towards the end of this podcast, I would like to recount under the local news the joy of listening to a Rodney Davis commercial.
Okay. We'll get back to that then.
Thank you.
I would like to open our podcast today. First of all, it just seems like there are mass shootings now every hour.
It does.
It's really scary and awful.
Uh-huh.
And, of course I want to say something hopeful and supportive to the victims of those violent acts, but I'm not going to do the thoughts and prayers thing. We got to get rid of people whose policies are unlimited guns for whoever wants them.
Right.
And this is that is the politicization of this.
Simple and clear.
People have policies that say unlimited access to guns. That's a political policy.
Right.
And if you disagree with that policy that anybody should be able to buy a weapon of mass destruction, you can't vote Republican because that is their policy. That is the policy they have put in place. And we can get into the NRA and how bought and paid for and corrupt they are.
Sure.
The real issue is I'm voting against you because your policies, I disagree with your policies.
Right. And you don't even have to be a single issue voter.
No.
Because on every issue, Republicans are out of their fucking minds.
Yeah.
Right down the line. You pick an issue and you'll find voting rights. Nope. The planet's burning. No, it's not. Women's hoo-has. Nope. We got to build a fence around them and force them to bear their rapist children. Like right down the line. Every Republican policy is insane.
And then they don't have a platform.
No,
it's just whatever Donald Trump wants is our platform.
Well, right? Tax cuts.
Tax cuts for billionaires.
More deregulation.
And tax increases because we believe that senior citizens living off their retirement don't have any skin in the game.
Those goddamn elderly moochers.
Right.
They
don't have any skin in the game, and they have to have skin in the game. So,
right.
But I want to start with one particular Republican this week, Driftglass.
Okay. All right.
His name is Pete Ricketts. He's the governor of Nebraska. And you told me last night that you did some research on him.
Well, yeah, his name is really familiar.
Baseball team?
He is a partial owner of the Chicago Cubs.
Oh, my gosh.
The Ricketts family is fucking billionaires, and they buy all kinds of things. And one of the things they bought was a chunk of the Chicago Cubs. So, yeah, that's the truth.
Well, Pete Ricketts, I had to research him the other day. There was a absolutely humongous chemical fire in Omaha, Nebraska. Pete Ricketts is governor of Nebraska. This chemical plant fire blew a humongous cloud of black smoke into the air. And there were videos of it all over Twitter. And the video, regardless of whether what the chemical plant was, what was actually happening there, the video was very dramatic because there was, as I say, black smoke in a humongous cloud covering the picture.
Yeah.
Thank God no one was hurt. It appears, having researched it today, that the chemical plant did chemicals related to concrete, and they also had within their facility propane, and it was the propane that exploded.
Yeah.
Propane's bad for you, but it's not absolutely deadly like some chemicals that, if they'd exploded, could have absolutely killed people.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want
concrete
you.
Also, there's also silicates in the concrete. There's
Right.
also
No,
lots
and
of
anyone who has breathing issues already, like you
Yeah.
do, Driftglass, is
Uh-huh.
not going to want to be around it. And they did evacuate. Apparently, a 12 by 9 block area around the chemical plant was evacuated. And as someone pointed out on Twitter, the race, the politics, and the economic level of people who live around a chemical plant.
Yeah. And people who don't live around a chemical
And
plant.
the people who don't live around a chemical plant. So
Uh-huh.
I was seeing this very dramatic video and expecting that this could quite possibly be a dangerous ecological disaster for the city of Omaha. And this is why I went to look at Pete Ricketts, because someone had said, where are all the Republican office holders in Nebraska doing something about this chemical disaster in their state? And no one was commenting on it. And I thought, okay, but that's not really fair, because in a disaster like this, it's not about how quickly you can tweet something.
Right. You put on the windbreaker and you get out there and you marshal
You marshal your forces. You declare a state emergency or a citywide emergency. You get with the local officials. You get with the fire people. You talk with them about what's needed. And if it is something very serious in terms of chemicals in the air, you might even call the White House and say, look, we're going to need a national disaster, but your job. And some Republican governors are actually good at this. I'm not slamming all Republicans. Some Republican governors are very good at, okay, we have a disaster. We know we need to get in touch with FEMA. We know we need to get in touch with our state and local and city officials, and they work it all out, right? And they have staff to work it all out, and the money and the resources and the people, and they line it all up.
And that's the difference between a few Republican governors and Republican senators.
Right.
Republican senators will reliably vote against disaster relief. I'm thinking of Rand Paul specifically. For everybody but themselves.
Yep.
And when their state, something real bad happens, suddenly it's very important that the nation pull together and support the good people of Kentucky.
Right. Especially during an election year.
Yes.
When he's
governors in the face of disaster. I'm thinking Jeb Bush. Jeb Bush did a pretty good job with hurricanes.
And Chris Christie. Chris Christie shook Obama's hand during the hurricane, had him come in, had FEMA come in, did what he had to do.
Yeah.
It's your job.
He immediately betrayed all of that as soon as he got a megaphone, as soon as the disaster had passed. Yeah. But governors get elected by the people of a state, and if things go horribly wrong, they know they're the ones who are going to get blamed. Right.
So it wasn't about Pete Ricketts getting on Twitter quickly enough.
No.
I expected that if this disaster had happened and that he was going to marshal his forces, and at some point he would say what was happening on Twitter. No, that's not what happened, Driftglass.
No.
I looked at Pete Ricketts, like our governor, J.B. Pritzker, has 2 Twitter accounts. He has a political Twitter account for his reelection campaign and his, him as a politician speaking to his voters. And then he has a governor's Twitter page, which is much less partisan and is much more about announcing things that the governor's office is doing.
Right. Policy ribbon cutting, things like that.
And this is right. So J.B. Pritzker in Illinois does the same thing. He will go on his political Twitter and say Republicans in other states are doing terrible things about women's rights to choice, and he'll name Republicans and go after them. And he doesn't do that on his governor's website. He doesn't go after Republicans the way he does on his political. All right. So Pete Ricketts' political Twitter page, pinned tweet at the top. is an interview that he gave to Christopher Rufo, who some of you know who that is.
God. He invented CRT out of whole cloth.
Yes. Well, and he interviews Governor Ricketts about the dangers of this horrible CRT.
You know, if you
Critical
let CRT...
race theory is destroying America, and we're not going to let it enter. We're going to build a wall around Nebraska schools to make sure CRT doesn't get in.
If you let CRT in your state, chemical plants blow up. I swear to God. Really? Oh, yeah, it's true. I got the research right here. Show it to you. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's not what happened. Right. So I knew who I was dealing with. Nothing on his political page about the chemical fire. Okay.
Right.
And this is several hours later. Nothing about that. Go over to his governor's page, his Twitter page as governor of the state. Is he going to say anything about the chemical fire? No, but he has a live stream going on at the top of his governor's page where he's going to have an announcement at a press conference. Like, okay, he's going to talk about the chemical fire, right? That's the thing. He's going to talk about the chemical. Thank goodness he's on it. He's going to get FEMA involved. He's going to do whatever he needs to do for the state to make sure people are safe, because that's his job, right?
I'd like to remind everyone that my wife has never seen a single episode of The West Wing, and therefore this is not political fiction, haunting her mind.
I don't like The West Wing. You know that. I don't like it. It's pornography, and I don't like pornography. I don't like that kind of dream world. I think it's done tremendous damage to the Democratic Party because they expect perfection from their president because they watch The West Wing. And Democratic presidents should just be President Bartlett, and by the end of the hour, things should be fixed and turn out all right. And that's not how it works. Anyway, so here is Governor Ricketts on Twitter, live in front of the press, going to make an announcement. There are going to be new license plates in Nebraska next year, Driftglass.
Oh, goody.
Let's have a half-hour announcement with several people from the DMV, from his press office, and First Lady Mrs. Ricketts, who formed the committee to design the new license plates. And the new license plates, it was so complicated. I had so much to learn, says Mrs. Ricketts, about license plates and what the rules are. And they're just, Driftglass, the boringest license plates. I was waiting. I tell you, I was sitting there watching this live thing and thinking, it's going to say "In God We Trust." It's going to say "In God We Trust." It's going to say, no more critical race theory, right? Mm-hmm. It's going to have Harriet Tubman's face with a circle and a line through it. Yeah. It's going to be something incredibly offensive. Uh-huh. No, it was bland and boring. It's white with a kind of like watermark on the back of some Art Deco art from the 30s that, because the state capital of Nebraska is probably a WPA building, is what I'm guessing.
Oh, yeah. You know what? Probably so.
But Art Deco watermark on the back of the license plate, and then the number is blue on the front, and it's white and blue, and that's it. But, this took 2 years of the First Lady of Nebraska's time to do this. So, and they're going on for 25 minutes while smoke is billowing into the air in Omaha. They're talking about license plate. And then they had time for questions, and the questions were all about, are you going to do anything to stop 18-year-olds from buying AK-47s? Uh-huh. And he's not.
No, of course not.
Surprise, he's not.
AR-15s.
AR-15s, right. Mm-hmm. Right, not AKs. But are you going to stop that? No, of course he's not. So I thought, okay, I'm done with that. But I searched Governor Ricketts' name on Twitter one more time, just to check.
Yeah.
And in 2020, this actually made national news. There was a Nebraska pastor named Jared Parker. There were incidents in Nebraska regarding police brutality, and Jared Parker arranged a meeting with Governor Ricketts to talk with him about how the state could respond. There could be increased training, any kind of reform that could happen as a result of this unfortunate incident regarding Black people and the police. Hello.
May I take a wild stab that Nebraska pastor Jared Parker is an African-American gentleman?
He is an African-American gentleman. Appears to be, and I don't want to over-categorize people, but he does fall into the category of not just pastor, but community activist. You can definitely see that from the way he's talking in the video that came out. There is a video of him sitting in his car talking to his phone. He walked out on the meeting with Governor Ricketts, and he wants to explain to his congregation, to the state, and to the community, he felt an obligation to meet with the governor to work towards solutions regarding police brutality against Black people. But he walked out on the meeting. And the reason he walked out on the meeting is because Pete Ricketts began the discussion with Pastor Jared Parker with the words, "The problem I have with you people."
Oh, God. Yeah.
And when the white billionaire governor, Republican of Nebraska, turned to a African-American pastor and said, "The problem I have with you people," the pastor got up and walked out.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's,
Don't blame him one bit.
What would Jesus do? Get the hell out.
Yeah. Like, we're done.
No.
And you could tell that Pastor Jared Parker was enraged by the racism that he had confronted right there at a meeting where you're trying to resolve and come to some agreement and reform things and make things better for everybody, right? No, you could also sense a sense of regret that, look, I can't work with this person. And why should he?
Right.
The problem I have with you people. And of course, he's got CRT pinned to the top of his Twitter page. So
I got to wonder if he bought the Cubs to get all those Negro League players out of his ball club. I kind of wonder.
Well, the problem he has with you people.
With you people,
is, it's not funny, except that he's such a freaking cartoon.
Well, it's not funny, but it's not funny because it's the real world.
It is, and nothing about this chemical fire. I mean, this is what bothers me most of all is, where is the governing of the state of Nebraska?
Yeah. Well, they're busy.
They got what they voted for, right?
They did, and they're going to vote for it again.
Yeah.
They're going to vote for it again until they drive the state back to the Bronze Age.
Yeah. And
then we'll take pity on them, and I suppose, ship them sharp objects and sandwiches. I don't know what to say to states that the voters go, the Enlightenment is just too much. We've got to get back to the good old days of 30-year lifespans, not knowing how medicine works, and women being forced to bear children whether they like it or not. We miss those days.
All right. And so let me interrupt you and finish off by saying that I went onto Twitter today to find out the name of Pastor Jared Parker for our notes by looking up Nebraska pastor on Twitter. And in the course of doing that, I found an editorial written by Rebecca McNeil. She is a pastor, retired pastor now, in Nebraska.
Okay.
She's a Nebraska native. She went to school in Oklahoma. She was ordained in the 80s in a Disciples of Christ church. Has been a pastor for 25 years. And she has a regular column in the Elgin, Nebraska Review.
Okay. We have that. We have that kind of here. We have a once a week faith
will write
column.
A faith column, exactly. Yeah. And from looking at her archives of her columns, they are definitely about, how Jesus would see things and love your neighbor, and this charity. These Girl Scouts did this wonderful thing, and it's a little bit of spirituality dusted on some feel good stuff. And I have no criticism for that. Yeah. Right.
Pancake days and whatnot. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So, but her editorial for January 13th, 2021, the editorial that she wrote, the next one after January 6th.
I was going to say, why does that month and year sound so familiar to me?
And I'm not going to read the whole editorial, but just a few sentences of it. The title of it is, "It is Time to Repent." There was nothing of Jesus in what took place at the U.S. Capitol on Epiphany. In amongst the "Don't Tread on Me" banners and Confederate and Trump flags, there were also crosses. and banners and signs carrying Jesus' name. But he was not there. Not with the zealots who stormed our citadel of democracy, equipped with zip ties for restraining our elected representatives. Not with the hooligans who smeared feces and peed in its historic hallways. Not with the mob chanting to hang the vice president. And not with the deluded dopes who had been so brainwashed by years of Breitbart and Fox and church leaders who long ago climbed into bed with crooked politicians.
Oh, she named names.
She named names.
Companies, named organizations, yeah.
That they mistakenly and naively believed they were being patriots promoting a righteous cause that day.
Yeah.
There is nothing of Jesus in the frenzied waving of flags bearing one man's name. There is nothing of Jesus and nothing pro-life about a politician and his minions who whip up a crowd in a rally and then point them in the direction of the Capitol, where 5 people lost their lives in the violence, including a police officer. Do not be deceived. Jesus was not any part of that.
Well,
and she goes on,
right.
and it's a 1,000-word essay.
Spoken by a local, respected religious leader with a history of editorial license to write what she believes and feels, who was moved to write something very passionate and very important to her local community.
Right. So she submitted this column, and she got a letter from Dennis Morgan, the owner and publisher of the Elgin Review.
Mm-hmm.
Rebecca, first, let me say thank you for your past column submissions. We have made a decision this week to go in a different direction. As a result, we will no longer be publishing your column.
Mm-hmm.
Period. Not this column, your column.
Uh-huh.
You're done here.
Yep.
We're not going to publish this column, and we're never having you back.
This is, first of all, let's look at all the things this is.
Mm-hmm.
It is absolutely reflective of my experience with our local paper.
Uh-huh.
Which, when people finally left its employment, were able to say on social media, at last I'm free to express myself.
Wow.
But while they were there, you could tell we're towing the party line, man. And they were doing what the publisher ordered them to do, which was, syndicate and Coulter.
Mm-hmm.
And if any asshole asks why, tell them it's for balance.
Uh-huh.
This is a paper that sponsored Ted Nugent to come and be their celebrity spokesperson, great outdoorsman Ted Nugent at some outdoor thing. Ted Nugent is a fucking monster who advocated, killing Hillary Clinton, who advocated just horrible, shitty human being that this paper's publisher celebrated and invited everyone to come on down and meet Ted Nugent. Then wrote a column about the importance of civility on both sides. This is what control of local media means. And what this also is cancel culture. This is actual cancel culture. Mm-hmm. This is someone who has never, as far as we know, strayed from a pretty centerish, community-minded, as you said,
right?
pancake days sprinkled with Jesus,
right?
And then something horrific happened, and she felt moved to write about why this is not a Christian act, and people who think it is are wrong, and these are the organizations that have misled them. And the response from the publisher was, "Thanks, but no thanks. You're out of here." Mm-hmm. That is exactly the problem of that. We as bloggers and podcasters, or people who are griping that Democrats don't know how to message, don't seem to understand. Mm-hmm. There is no way into this horrible mess, this Republican hate machine. You're not going to get any opinions at the top. You're not going to get any opinions in the door at the middle, and you're not going to get any opinions in the door at the local level. There's no room for us anywhere in that universe. And and all they have to do is tell her no. Right. That's the local paper. What's she going to do? She can start blogging. I've been doing that for 17 years.
She did. Yeah. I mean, she has. She has always published her column on the web as well. Mm-hmm. Or at least up until, I don't know exactly the history of it, but she certainly published this column on the web and explained that she'd been let go. Yeah.
And this is the marketplace of ideas problem, which is the marketplace for ideas at the local newspaper level, which is where you would think being able to convince people not to be insane or stupid or violent or racist could begin, is all about well, we have paid subscribers, and our subscription base, our advertising base are obituaries and marriage announcements.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't do anything to offend any of the people who are going to be dying soon or have family members who are dying soon. So don't offend seniors and don't offend people who are basically Republicans, because that's where they get their news. So we can't say anything that is true. We can't take a position on anything.
Well, and now they're all owned by hedge funds.
Yeah, Gatehouse here.
Gatehouse here.
Yeah.
Yeah. The news is now owned by super wealthy organizations that don't want anything that's going to interfere with selling advertising.
Right. And I forget who said this on social media. The days of eccentric millionaires who believe in freedom of the press owning papers is over. Mm-hmm. These are now owned by billionaires who are all about shareholder value, squeezing every nickel they can out of it, and using the papers that they've acquired for propaganda. Mm-hmm. And there is simply no alternate press out there that is anywhere near the size and scope of just buying up a bunch of newspapers
and local TV shows.
And local TV, all of our local TV, our local radio stations. This is not a matter of a lack of intent. This is a matter of lack of money.
This is intent. No, this is definitely tremendous intent on the right to own everything. Yes.
It is not a matter of lack of intent or passion on the part of we liberals.
No.
We do not have crackpot billionaires who will spend 30 years buying up radio stations and buying up TV stations and buying up churches.
Supreme Court seats.
And buying Supreme Court. We don't have that. Yeah. We have always relied on the righteousness of our cause. And the people who do have the money at the top of the left are not interested in investing in any of those things. They think the righteousness of the cause should be enough. That we out here in the field, raising our fists and marching and protesting should be enough. That should be enough. Getting on Twitter and saying, the Republican Party is owned by the NRA. Show of hands, who agrees with me? Should be enough. And it isn't. It is nowhere near enough. And that is a source of perpetual frustration with all of us, I think. But we need not relitigate that today. Today, I'd like to explain how to watch Fox News.
Oh.
Now, there are many, many podcasts out there that you can choose from and local liberal radio stations out there in the world who do the daily outrage. There's a list of things that you should be angry about today. Have you heard what George so-and-so said today? Oh, my God, can you believe what Harry blah, blah, blah said? John Kennedy said this. And there's usually a co-host. You can be my co-host here who can go, mm-hmm. And that's the whole show. That is the entire show. Oh, my God, can you believe how stupid so-and-so is? Oh, my God. Yes, I'm outraged.
I can't believe it. I can't believe how stupid he is. Louis Gohmert is so stupid.
Why are we outraged? Why are people more outraged about this?
Yeah.
He or she says to the 10 people who are listening who already agree with them.
Yeah.
That is not this podcast.
No.
There are plenty out there, and plenty of people do this really well. But that's not this. What we would like to tell you, because we do watch Fox. My wife has to, dip into it every now and then for work. I watch it for a very specific reason. We watch Fox News for the ads.
Yes.
And we watch Fox News for what I call the Chiron steeplechase.
The Chiron steeplechase.
Right. The Chiron steeplechase, stolen from Columbia College writing exercise. About you write for a page and then you change your genre. Same story. And then you write for another page and you change the tense. And then you write for a page and you change the point of view. Mm-hmm. And you keep shifting your perspective to see what works and what doesn't work and how that affects the tale.
And you could really improve your story all of a sudden.
Yes, you can. Oh my God, this should be told in first person.
This should be told in first person, or this should be told with an omniscient narrator.
Yes.
Why am I writing I, where if I put, and she did this and she did that and she did this, it's so much better. And it just depends on the story you're telling.
It does. First story I ever had published in my life. I wrote it in third person. Halfway through, I told the guy, he was about my age, a little bit older. I'm tearing this up and starting over. Did it over in first person. It was a totally different story, and it was published. Mm-hmm. It changes.
Steeplechase and Fox is a different thing.
But the steeplechase on Fox, the Chiron steeplechase is a fast way of figuring out during the course of the day what real news is breaking in the world and what Fox is trying to do to get you to not pay attention to the real news.
Right.
So we go CNN, MSNBC, Fox. Now, CNN and MSNBC are no prizes. We have a loyal listener and dear friend who reminds us every day, MSNBC is not your friend.
Not your friend. Steve says that. Steve also says, creepy weirdo.
Yes.
About Republicans in general. They're creepy weirdos.
They're creepy weirdos. And they're creepy.
And I know he gets that from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. But
Yes.
creepy weirdo, and also MSNBC is not your friend.
So if you need to, because it's hard to get away from Fox. You can cut cable, and that's fine. You should do that. But if you have cable, as most television viewers do, Fox comes with the package. It shouldn't. It's evil. It's like including herpes with toothpaste. You know, why would you do that? But there it is. However, Fox News, you can reliably understand the world in a very short period of time by going, oh, MSNBC is talking about Joe Biden's program for this, and CNN's
Joe Biden visiting Texas is one example, Texas. Right?
Joe Biden visiting Texas,
comforting
Biden visiting Texas,
mourners of the shooting, right?
And then CNN has
Joe Biden comforting them, right? Yeah.
Or CNN has an analysis of the shooting patterns or something, whatever. Some guy on there, and Fox News is all about, does marijuana cause mass shooting? What?
Yeah. Laura Ingraham actually did that this week.
And then you have, another, since that's the news of this week, it's mass shooting occurred here. Here's what we know. Mass shooting occurred here. Here's what we know. Over on Fox, insane Biden loses his mind and berates staff and that. It's, this is what your crazy Uncle Liberty is watching. And even if it just filters like poison into his or her ecosystem, this is where it's coming from. And
it's the Johnny Depp trial, the end of Me Too, Driftglass.
Yeah, is it?
That was today.
Is it?
Yeah.
We don't know. But it's always something horrible. And it's always designed, when there's slow news, which I know you don't believe there is, but occasionally there is, they go to some guy living under a bridge in San Bernardino who says, I live off welfare and I love every minute of it. And that becomes, all Democrats are mooching assholes who want to give your money to losers. And that's just a reinforcing message. That's just every day. Remember, Democrats are monsters. Democrats are criminals. This is Newt Gingrich politics on TV. But when things are bad or breaking or actually happening in the world, it's interesting to watch. They go to, I swear to God, a cardboard box somewhere in someone's office. And there's a list of distracting topics we should run to keep people from noticing that we're monstrous, bloodthirsty scumbags. And that's what they do. And that's what your crazy Uncle Liberty will talk about today. So that is the only way we recommend you ever watch Fox News if you do at all. Secondly, for the ads. For the ads, baby. The ads are great. The ads, well, first of all, it's all Mike Lindell.
A lot of it is Mike Lindell, yes.
Yeah. But watching the political ads during primary season is just glorious, because it really is just a bunch of bottom-feeding monsters climbing all over each other, trying to be the most conservative, most pure. And it's all about Joe Biden is a communist, liberals want to murder you, and I believe 100% in guns, and your snatch belongs to me.
Yes, right.
We now own your entire reproductive system of every woman in this country.
And Donald Trump and I tongue each other on a regular basis.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I'm the most Trumpy Trumpin'. Well, I know my opponent was endorsed by Donald Trump, but I am actually the Trumpiest of all the Trump, because all of them are all of them
pure
live
MAGA.
up
Yes, right.
And who's the purest? And that's all that is all they're debating. That's all these ads are. And it's to get past each other so they can go take on the dirty commie liberals. And what is fascinating to me and tragic and not surprising in the least is the language they're using in the normal course of their conversations, the shit they say every day in Congress, the shit they say in their ads, all the shit they say everywhere is uglier and harsher and more laden with lies and laden with intentional fear-mongering bullshit than Newt Gingrich ever dreamed of. Back in 1992 or 3 or 4, the New York Times wrote an op-ed going, oh my God, this is the Newt Gingrich project to teach Republicans how to say terrible things in front of a microphone. And if this goes on, things could get really bad, but I'm sure it's so outrageous and so wrong that responsible people won't let it happen. Well, 30 years later, and that vocabulary is now tame compared to the everyday quotidian vocabulary of the average Republican doing anything, saying anything, talking anywhere. And that's how far we've gone. Now they're knifing each other. I realize come the fall, it's going to be brutal, and we're all going to have to fight for every vote. But for the moment, watching Republicans try to picnicking on each other over who's the most MAGA is something to see.
Well, and the thing I love too is that after the election's over, the primary election's over, and it's time to move on and focus on the Democrats and focus on winning the election.
Mm-hmm.
These candidates are doing the stop the steal bullshit.
Yes, they are.
About other Republicans.
With each other, yes. Oh,
with each other. Yeah. This Candace Taylor in this Gun Gods and Babies bus lady in Georgia, who, I'm telling you, every time I see her on television or on Twitter, still talking, she deleted, by the way, her YouTube account today.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Perhaps because she realizes if she wants to have a political future anywhere, she can't be out on YouTube. There can't be YouTubes out there of her whining. But she had got 3.4% of the vote in Georgia in the Republican primary. And she is claiming, based on some article by Emerald Robinson at Newsmax, her, that, there were discrepancies in the Georgia election and stop the steal. And of course, Brad Raffensperger won, which has really got to burn up Donald Trump. Apparently, Adam Kinzinger encouraged Democratic voters in Georgia to switch parties in the Georgia primary and vote for Raffensperger. And apparently quite a few did. Apparently that's allowed in Georgia. Some states that's not allowed. You're not allowed to switch parties before the primary, but because that's rat fucking. But apparently some did. Raffensperger won, which is, very bad as far as Trump's concerned. He considers that cheating. In Pennsylvania, Donald Trump screamed on Truth Social, "Stop finding votes." Right. Well, and this is a Republican primary. You're supposed to want your goal now in Pennsylvania should be to defeat the Democratic candidate.
Yeah. Well,
and they're suing each other, right, because of recount and everything. But they're in Georgia, there's sour grapes all over the place.
Well, now that screaming fraud every time you lose for any reason, even if it's by 50 points, has been legitimized by the head of the party.
And it's apparently a way to raise money.
That's
after
on the table
the election.
Now.
Yeah.
There's no election that is legitimate that is not. No election is legitimate unless Donald Trump says it's legitimate.
Right.
That's the rule.
And there's no policy in the Republican Party unless Donald Trump says today that he wants that policy.
Right.
That's it.
Well,
and he's got all the money.
He does. And he still has his defenders, even when they lose in court.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I want to talk about Bill Barr. This whole thing with the Durham investigation, which has been everybody's hope on the right in MAGA world that, just wait, Durham's going to get him. Durham's going to get Hillary. At long last, we're going to get Hillary.
How soon until his nickname is Bullshit Durham?
Bullshit Durham. That's the title of our podcast this week.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm happy to oblige.
Oh, Lord. And the best he could do was to try to prosecute a Hillary Clinton part-time. I believe he was only part-time for the Clinton campaign. And claim that he had lied to the FBI in saying that he didn't work for Clinton or didn't bring up that he worked for the Clinton campaign.
Yeah.
And that was lying to the FBI.
The lowest hanging possible fruit you can charge anyone with in this whole mess.
And the jury came back in 6 hours, and all of them said in interviews afterwards, he didn't have a case.
It's bullshit. It's all bullshit.
What were we going to do?
This is among all the charges they could have brought, and they should have brought none because it's all bullshit.
Yeah.
They brought the easiest one to prove.
Yeah.
The one you can basically indict a ham sandwich, that level of certainty.
That's the claim. Yeah.
And the jury threw it out. The jury said bullshit.
In 6 hours. In 6 hours, they threw it out. Not 2 days. No, they didn't need a whole lot of deliberation. They needed to read the evidence one at a time, which is what juries have to do.
Right.
They have to go through each page of evidence and read it, and then have a little vote on it to see where people think this evidence is important or not. Well, they did their job.
Around. They had to stick around for the free meals. I mean, that's why it took 6 hours.
We're waiting until dinner.
Look, they serve some good shit at the courthouse.
Steak, right?
Yeah.
So, so 6 hours later, they come back and say there was no disagreement in the jury at all that this was dumb.
But Bill Barr knows what's really important.
Well, Bill Barr then went on Jesse Watters' Primetime, and he said it didn't matter. It did, and so many people this week are trying to polish this turd.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that Durham lost because he won the truth war. And so Bill Barr was actually sitting at a 45-degree angle. And everyone said, the body language here is leaning away from the camera and clearly knows he's lying. But he has to come out and tell Fox News viewers that it didn't matter that Durham didn't get a conviction because it was far more important to make sure that Hillary Clinton, Hillary,
yeah,
all of that we got political revenge. We showed people how corrupt Hillary Clinton is.
Yeah, by losing the case. But we got him, man.
And admitting that this is a propaganda exercise.
Yeah,
everything that Durham was doing was he would release, make press releases at opportune times to get on Fox News and give them another chyron, right?
Well, yeah. And Trump never cared about Ukraine investigating the Biden family.
No.
He cared about them saying they were going to, so he could turn around and say, oh my God, look how corrupt they are. They're going to investigate the corrupt Biden family.
Even Ukraine is investigating Biden.
Yeah,
right.
That's all he wants. He wants the headline, the New York Post style headline that says, my opponent is corrupt. And because
Rupert Murdoch is not going to do any investigation as to what they're actually doing.
Well,
it's a propaganda exercise. Yes.
And because the meatheads on the right don't read below the headline.
Right.
They just know that Trump steaks are delicious. Well, they have botulism and they don't exist anymore and they went out of business, as with all of the. No, they're delicious. It says so right in the advertising. And Trump knows his audience. His audience are, as we've said before, the 70 million plus reprogrammable meatbags on the right who believe everything Sean Hannity shits into their skull. Mm-hmm. And they are never going to stop being this way, and they're never going to stop believing. And there is always a moment when things don't work, and they sort of are. They're like all the droids or all the ships in Independence Day when the mothership blown up. They all crash. Mm-hmm. The power supply has been cut off, and they all go dead. And so they're waiting for the next lie, because they're not going to give up their insane racist beliefs. They're just waiting for someone to tell them how to justify it. And Bill Barr comes along and says, well, we really won. Yeah. We really won this, actually, because the point was smearing Hillary and getting revenge for our guy, Donald. And we did that. So fuck those liberals. And, okay, good. So whether she did anything wrong or not was irrelevant. It was sticking it to her. Well, we made a liberal cry. That's great.
You want to talk about the epidemiology of bad ideas.
Yeah.
And then I've got, in parentheses, Andrew Sullivan. Is that related to that?
It kind of is. I mean, it does interest me. There was such an incredible amount of propaganda, an insistence from our Never Trump friends that we on the left need to talk to people, to talk in their language. Don't condescend. Listen to them empathetically, and find that place where you can find common ground. And we do that in our lives here in Springfield. Mm-hmm. We find common ground over paving the streets and putting in a stop sign and having speed bumps. But when it comes to political policies, there is no common ground to be found. There just isn't. So I am always curious about not the people who watch Fox News. They're a lost cause. But I keep hearing that there's this group in the middle who are like undecided, inchoate. They can go one way or the other. Maybe they'll vote for the fascists. Maybe they won't. They just don't know. Who are simultaneously not paying attention to anything, but have firmly held opinions about everything. And I gotta wonder, because none of the people who preach this bullshit doctrine will talk to me and explain to me how they came to this conclusion, where the bad ideas get into the independent brain, not the Republican brain, but the imaginary centrist liberal brain. Why do imaginary centrists who don't watch the news, I'm not on social media, I don't Google stuff, I'm busy, I don't do any of that stuff, how do they come to believe that Joe Biden is a communist? What makes them believe that that Barack Obama might well have been a Kenyan-born citizen?
Mhm.
What made them think that Bill Clinton might very well have had people murdered? What makes them think that there is no difference between the two parties? Because those are really, really shitty ideas that are believed by people who are allegedly outside the Republican Party. And you and I can reach those people, Blue Gal, if only we find the right bar at the right time and buy the right person the correct beer, and then, talk to them like people.
Yeah,
Not
but
MSNBC.
I think this is absolutely imaginary on their part.
It is. It's
Not
100%.
not just that there is no such thing as an independent, because there are, as we've talked about many times on this podcast, there are people who just want to get along with their coworkers. They don't want to start controversy or get fired, and politics in terms of debating issues is just not part of their day-to-day life. They will talk about the Johnny Depp trial or what happened on The Bachelor for hours and hours and hours, because the consequences of that are not life and death. But they either don't feel qualified, or they just don't want to talk about real issues that matter in terms of people's actual existence.
So, yes.
And I just wanted to bring up, go ahead.
I just said, if they don't want to talk about real issues, there's no way to talk to them about real issues.
No, because they're going to change the channel to The Bachelorette. They are.
Right.
Or Masked Singer. That's what they're going to talk about. Yeah.
Whether you talk to them as a guy on the bar stool next to them, or talk to them as an MSNBC contributor, they're not going to listen because they don't want to talk about it.
They don't want to talk about it. And they may go and vote. And they either vote absolutely consistently for one party, in which case they're just not an independent, even though that's what they call themselves. Yeah. Every 4 years they go and vote the same way, right?
As most studies have shown, there are no independents out there.
But the people who are swing voters, who change and will vote, and there are people who voted for Obama and then voted for Trump. Sure. They either always want to vote for the winner, or they vote on a whim. They vote as a joke. I think that's why Trump won very specific counties in Michigan, is that there were white guys who were not going to vote for Hillary no matter what. Even if they felt like Trump was awful, they were going to vote for him as a joke. Right. Because then they wouldn't be responsible for anything Hillary did for the next 4 years. And they were convinced she was going to win, like lots of people were. All right. But Sarah Longwell, who I know is one of the Bulwark Lincoln Project people, right? Yes. She's Republican Accountability Project, Never Trumper, etc. But she's also a pollster. And she spends a lot of time interviewing swing voters, people who voted differently in different presidential elections. Right. In order to do research in Arizona and other places to find out what is on their minds. And these swing voters that she has interviewed and identified as swing voters, she was talking with one of the pod boys about this kind of voter. Apparently, there are a lot of them in Arizona who voted for John McCain 1,700 times, but also voted for Obama for president. And she said that those swing voters, the things that she identified as qualities of those swing voters, I found very comforting. Swing voters are vaccinated. Swing voters believe that Joe Biden is president of the United States, and they really don't like relitigating 2020. Right. And they're not going to vote for Carrie Lake for governor in Arizona because she's nuts. And this MAGA, I'm going after the media. I'm going to burn a mask on one of my ads.
Smash TVs. Going to smash
TVs with a baseball bat. Because Don Lemon's face is on there. Right. That's that kind of thing. They're not going to vote that way. And this is getting off of our notes, but 10 Grain over at Mock Paper Scissors has an article up talking about another pollster on Meet the Press this weekend, Mr. Belcher.
Yeah, Cornell
Belcher. Right? Yeah. Talking about, no, really, this is the year of the angry mom.
Yeah, I believe it.
Don't sleep on that. Don't sleep on the fact that taking away abortion rights and having a mass shooting every other day because Republican policies say that that's the price of freedom.
Right.
That women are just fed up with that.
Well, can I separate the swing voter from the angry mom voter just for a second?
Sure.
Angry. I can totally believe that any decent mom, person who's had a mother, who is a mother, who plans to be a mother, would be boiling mad right now.
Right.
And boiling mad at the people who did this to them, who endanger their children, and who want to take away their rights and their daughter's rights.
Right.
I can totally believe that. Swing voters, on the other hand, remind me a whole lot of the Tea Party. Like, I voted for George Bush, but I never supported the war. I
never liked the tweet.
I never liked the tweets. Like, you're still going to vote for the fascists, but you don't like the fact that they're so fucking flamboyant about their fascism.
Right.
So as long as you can get a nice, comfortable fascist who wears a suit or preferably like a jogging outfit and it looks like he coaches kids soccer, I'll vote for that fascist. Oh, yeah, that's fine with me. And so the GOP is now calibrating how to present the fascism to the swing voter who is really a Republican and just doesn't like certain aspects of the party because it makes them sound stupid. And it's dumb. There are certain things that they're just dumb. And I'm not dumb enough not to wear a mask, okay? But I'm still going to vote for Ron DeSantis if he runs for president.
But I think your hostility toward that politics is skewing your opinion because
quite possibly
because there is so much privilege in being able to choose the fascist and believe in your hearts that nothing he does will affect you.
Right. Absolutely.
And so, this voting for Trump as a joke, white guys in Michigan feel like they're never good. That's never, nothing he does is going to change my day-to-day life.
Yeah. Let me just remind you of one other thing. Trump got 8 million more votes in 2020 than he got in 2016.
Yeah. Yeah, he did.
So, so something happened. Yeah. I mean, Biden got even more than that, and thank God he did, and that all that is great and good. But the Trump joke voters didn't go away.
No, I guess they didn't.
Something happened between 16 and 20 to build even more of them. And I think they got it. A lot of people got a taste of like, oh, you're going to just fuck the liberals all the time. You're going to dump all over them all the time.
Yeah, they like that.
Great.
Yes.
Great. I can have all the guns I want.
Because is that because they feel so powerless in their day-to-day lives that this guy is fighting for them?
Well, and this is where the epidemiology part comes in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me point out something to you that literally 45 million Americans, 172 million Americans have a crazy Uncle Liberty.
Yeah.
Who shows up at weekends and holidays and Thanksgiving, etc., and sits at the table and has a couple of drinks and starts talking about the colors.
Yep.
And
affirmative action is the whole problem here. Yes.
The welfare queens, back in my day, everybody knows crazy Uncle Liberty. And yet, even though people are regularly exposed to these stupid ideas of crazy Uncle Liberty, somehow they're immune.
They don't go along with Crazy Uncle Liberty.
Crazy Uncle Liberty makes a lot of sense. I've been listening to a few years now, and God darn it, he's right about those welfare queens. I don't hear a lot of people said, I had a conversion moment. I was on the road to Damascus, and I suddenly realized Crazy Uncle Liberty, Archie Bunker's was right. It wasn't a comedy. It was the truth. Archie Bunker was telling the truth.
Documentary, yes.
So there are certain people out there who are immune to dumb ideas being pitched by awful people. And I don't understand how that immunity is carried forward and around because apparently there's a lot of people who are swing voters who are like, maybe welfare queens are the problem. I don't know what they think, but most importantly, I don't know how the stupid ideas get into their head because lots of stupid ideas out there from lots of sources. And there's lots of people who are immune to them. Lots of people who just roll their eyes and go, God, this fucker again. Who move away from the crazy guy at the end of the bar. So there is some mechanism by which I don't understand beyond Fox News where dumb ideas, dangerous ideas get entertained in a both sides kind of way by people in the middle, which does lead me to Andrew Sullivan. Andrew Sullivan really outdid himself this week. I didn't know he could. He shit the bed twice. He shit the bed twice in exactly the same way. It was remarkable. I wrote a whole post about I have a regular feature called Stupid Shit Andrew Sullivan Says.
Yes, you do.
And this week, he gave credence to an entirely fake news report about black and white students being graded differently because of critical race theory.
Yeah.
And of course,
and it's going to be easier grading for black students. That was the point. We're going to give black students a pass because affirmative action. Which it was a fake story. It wasn't true.
And Andrew Sullivan had to weigh in with, but of course, because that's Andrew Sullivan. And of course, 10 minutes later, it's like, dude, did you read the thing? But he didn't. And he just has opinions about what's going on. He lives in a little apartment or a little condo in Washington, D.C., has no fucking idea what's going on in the rest of the country. He has a complete fantasy idea of the America he wants, which resembles Margaret Thatcher's England without health care and lots more guns. Right. That's what Andrew Sullivan thinks America is in his heart and should be. And therefore, all the problems caused by this country are caused by liberals and LGBTQ people and CRT
but Andrew Sullivan's
and
gay.
speech codes.
Wait a minute.
He is America's most prominent, make sure I get this right, privileged white gay Catholic Tory conservative libertarian phrenologist.
Mm-hmm.
And he has many opinions about shit. And I thought, okay, well, I'll write this up because I write up Andrew Sullivan's stupid shit. But you know what?
Time out though. You said he was anti-LGBT.
Oh yeah. The alphabet people.
But he's gay.
Yeah, well, gay is one thing, honey. Trans is something entirely different.
Trans
is just a pose. It's a posture. And young
fake.
people in America,
it's fashion. It's not. It's young people being groomed into becoming.
It's what
something
people used to say gay people were. Lifestyle
exactly.
choice. It's just a lifestyle choice.
Yes.
And Andrew Sullivan, is the ultimate burn the ladder behind me.
Yes.
Once I got the right to get married, fuck the rest of you.
Yeah.
And he really is this bitter old English Tory asshole who happens to be gay. But the fact that he happens to be gay has nothing to do with the fact, or has everything to do with the fact that he was a validator for terrible conservative ideas for decades. Oh, well, we got a liberal. Look at Andrew Sullivan. Hey, look, we've got Michael Steele. Black people love us. And Andrew Sullivan, for a while there, during the Obama administration, got swoony and, enamored of that, got invited to the White House. It was great. But his inherent awful Tory racism kicked in. And now he's back to being Bill Maher's bitter asshole Tory gay friend.
Well, and that's another one, Bill Maher, who's, this pride stuff has just gone too far.
And bless their hearts over at Balloon Juice. They sent Andrew Sullivan a letter, an email about the Danish people and their glorious history of rushing shooters as a Nordic tradition.
Yeah, the Nordic tradition of rushing mass shooters.
Yeah, that's how they beat
unarmed Danes.
Yeah, unarmed Danes. Well, unarmed Danish children, rushing shooters.
I started to laugh, but the way it was put was this may sound counterindicated. This may be counterindicated, which is like a magic word for Andrew Sullivan, apparently.
Mm-hmm. But it's true. The Danes have a long tradition. Unarmed
school children rushing mass shooters and disarming them.
And I'm a gun safety consultant currently working with the Danish government. Well, it's easy to mock Meghan McArdle for suggesting blah, blah, blah. And it goes into this long tradition of the Danes have of children, rushing mass shooters. There was even something in Nordic mythology to support this long tradition. I'm like, and you know what you did? You showed the restraint not to say, and this is how we defeated the Nazis.
Yeah, they didn't say that. Yeah.
We threw our babies at their tanks. But he showed restraint, and Andrew Sullivan was completely taken in.
And put it up as his blog, right?
Now, why did he do this? And why did he just go immediately to, well, of course, black kids are going to get, extra stuff, free grades. Because Andrew Sullivan is a racist. And Andrew Sullivan is an elitist. But how do those bad ideas come so easily to his head? Because he is receptive to them. Mm-hmm. That's how diseases work. Yep. You are receptive to the notion that black people are going to be given advantages you don't get.
Right.
And so you believe anything anyone tells you about that.
That totally explains the great replacement theory.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep.
So you want to talk a little bit about good ideas, I believe, Blue Gal.
Oh, I just wanted to mention that there has been a trend on Twitter this week. We've noticed a lot of people talking about Both Sides Don't.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah. I'm just so happy.
And we credit our listeners for wearing Both Sides Don't merch and putting it on their cars and everything. Mm-hmm. That obviously it's getting out there.
It is.
But you had the epidemiology of bad ideas, and I put in our notes the epidemiology of good ideas.
Yeah.
And that I begged you last night at dinner, we are not changing this to the We Told You So podcast.
No, that's for
Even
our video
though the primary is being lit, is my prediction.
Right.
And it's so true. This is not the We Told You So podcast. We're excited that these ideas are getting out there at long
very
last.
much so. Very much so.
And I appreciate that Shock on Twitter is continually saying, you guys have been in the ramparts for 10 years on this subject. Yes. And it's nice to be acknowledged and recognized for that. But we're not here to say, we have been telling you this for years and blah, blah. How dare you, usurp our ideas or anything like that. That's not where I come from.
Come to Springfield, buy me a beer, and I will say that. I will say that over and over again, but not
Scotch, right?
But not today. Yeah, a nice top shelf Scotch.
Right,
I will nonetheless beef with recently former Republicans who pretend that they just discovered this was true, and
try to put their brand on it. That's different, right?
And shit on liberals.
Yep. For not knowing this.
Shit on liberals for saying that they were somehow to blame for this, and pretend that history began in 2016, which it most definitely did not.
That's a different ball of wax.
Different breed of cat. And I did want to take one moment. There's other stuff I'll talk about next week, but I did want to take one moment to mark the 15th anniversary of the passing of Mr. Stephen Gilliard.
Oh my goodness, 15 years.
It's been 15 years, 15 long years, and I still pull stuff off of his now long, abandoned old blog, the news blog. I still reprint chunks from Fighting Liberal, which was 2003 or 2004, I think. And Steve Gilliard is a reminder of back in the day when there was no Twitter and there was no YouTube and writing was king. America was shocked when they learned that Stephen Gilliard was black.
Yes,
and Digby was a woman. Digby's a woman, but she writes so well. Steve Gilliard's black, but he writes about history and he writes so muscularly.
See, this is why I put panties on my blog for like 10 years. It's because
I'm a woman.
And doing that distracted them from I can't read her writing. Oh no, I just go there for the panties. You don't understand.
Well, and there was a time during the very darkest years, right around the re-election of George Bush, which a lot of us thought wouldn't happen because he was such a manifestly incompetent man who had a manifestly evil vice president and a manifestly corrupt cabinet. And how could you? And we're going to run a war veteran against him,
right?
And it was, and he won, and Bush won, thanks to Matthew Dowd and Karl Rove crafting a hateful campaign of gay bashing, among other things.
Yeah.
And it literally left us feeling like a lot of you felt after you learned that Donald Trump won.
Yep.
Just utterly bereft. Like, what the fuck is happening in this country that this absolute failure can be reelected after 4 years of catastrophe and disaster? How can this be true? And of course, you go to the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal and the Chicago Tribune, nothing. You go to the networks, nothing. There's nothing out there that gives us oxygen. And then we discover Talking Points memo.
Yeah.
And then we discover Talking Points memo, I think, led me to a diatribe, published diatribe by a waitress who was in a restaurant and basically lit into people for voting for George Bush. That was passionate and uplifting, and all of us collectively went, oh my God, there's people out there like us. We did not know.
Who actually are just as outraged as we are. Yeah.
There was no connective tissue in this community at all. There was at the political organizing level, but not at the citizen, holy shit, what happened to this country level. And suddenly there are these blogs out there where people like us, a lot of them were basically every day was fuck you, fuck Bush.
Fuck Bush, okay. Yes, right.
That was your blog. But suddenly there was a whole universe of people out there who thought like we did and felt like we did. And we exchanged ideas and we exchanged strategies and we felt like we could breathe again. That this country had people like us who cared deeply about this, but had never had an outlet for our voice. And that's why having archives going back all the way 17 plus years ago and coming on 18 years ago for you.
November of 2004 was when I started my blog, and you were March of 2005, right?
2005. Having archives and being able to go back, because writing is a memory aid.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you know this, but I can remember things I wrote 15 years ago, almost verbatim. I can't remember what we had for breakfast yesterday, but I can remember things I wrote because it is, in a weird way, a mnemonic aid. It forces you to research and forces you to put it down on paper. And if you wrote something especially good, it sort of resonates.
Mm-hmm.
And having archives among older bloggers going back that far lets us have this sort of, I want to say, stealing from the Food Network, a flavor profile.
Yes.
A depth of flavor. We have lots of spices. We have lots of ingredients going way, way, way back.
Don't forget umami, Drift Glass.
We have umami. We got a good mouthfeel. And it really, it didn't make us rich. It didn't make us famous. It didn't change the world. But it did give us a vocabulary. It did give us something to hold us to this earth when it felt like we were all being blown away. And Stephen Gilliard was my gateway drug to that.
Oh, yeah. And your godfather. The godfather of your blog.
He was my blog father, and he kicked me out of his blog because I kept writing comments that ran on for 3 pages. And
that he thought were really good.
And he posted them. He said, finally, dude, get the hell out of here, start your own blog. And I did. Yep. And I'm glad I did, because of all the people who were blogging under Steve, who commented under Steve, and who started in a group setting. After he passed, a bunch of people did a group news blog. I think I might be the only person left who actually writes about him regularly.
And still writes every day.
And still writes every day and still remembers the connective tissue. I'm not him. I'm not one of the founding fathers, but I was the next generation after them. Right. I remember what they did, and I learned my lesson. And a few of us are still around. But I just wanted to
got to say, I have a tremendously enhanced appreciation of you, Driftglass, this week, because I realized someone brought up something that happened in 2007. And I'm trying to remember what it was.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember, but it was something. And I went and looked it up, not on Google, not on YouTube. I went and searched your blog.
Yeah.
To find the reference that, I know what it was. Mm-hmm. It was the goat fucking comment.
Yes.
From
Eric Erickson. David Souter.
David Souter, calling David Souter a goat fucking pedophile. I mean, that really is sort of the seed by which QAnon and their pedophilia fanaticism. Mm-hmm. Here's Eric Erickson calling David Souter, a Supreme Court justice, a goat fucking pedophile. Mm-hmm. And I made some comment about Eric Erickson and goat fucking. And someone replied as if a goat would fuck Eric Erickson. And I said, no, it doesn't have anything to do with actual goats. It has to do with a comment. It's actually tossing Eric Erickson's words back in his face.
Right.
And rather than look that up anywhere else, I went to your blog because I knew there would be a reference, at least one reference to, and a link to where it had started and what year it had started. I think it's 2006, but I'm grateful that you have archives and that, I know Google wants to get rid of Blogger. They just do.
Yes, they really do.
And they can't because there's too many people using it. So keep using it, Driftglass.
I promise I will keep using it.
You and Steve M both stay on Blogger. So
yeah. And this is not nostalgia. This is not, things were better back then. Because, they really kind of weren't. Yeah. But there were, it's long enough ago to remember that there were lots of people writing at that time.
It's community, yeah.
Well, and with passion. Mm-hmm. And we're saying, literally, this is the direction the GOP is headed. You have to stop them. They're a proto-fascist movement. They're incubating very rapidly, and it's going to get real bad. They're going for the courts. They're going to come for your vagina. They're going to they're going to pump guns into and just all of it was true. All of it has come to pass. Yeah. And that community of people, I regret, it dispersing. And a lot of them have died, and a lot of them just stopped blogging. But, it really isn't nostalgia. It's more like, we've been here before. Mm-hmm. And there were people who gave us, blog to mouth resuscitation. Yeah. And kept us going and kept us alive and kept us moving forward and kept us hopeful. Not stupid, crazy hopeful, like, magically Joe Biden's going to have the power to do everything we want. But Steve Gilliard was a pragmatic, bare knuckle political tactician. He knew New York politics. He knew African-American politics and he knew presidential politics. He knew who to punch.
And he knew the media too.
He did. He knew it very well. And having that in our back pocket, having that as part of our collective history. Everyone listening to this is part of your legacy. This is part of your history, is a powerful thing. Sometimes it weighs heavily because it's like, fuck, we got to do this again? Again? Really? We got to do this again? But it is a hopeful and strong legacy that we have all this history shared together, and we know what's coming, and we know what moves they're going to make. And it's just getting the people who don't want to take a side, who want to sit on the sidelines, who want to sit on the edge and bitch about everything and say nothing's ever going to change, everything sucks, Democrats are no better than Republicans. Force those people inch by inch to pick an aside and either getting off the playing field or suiting up and joining our team. So 15 years.
Yeah.
Thanks, Steve. I appreciate it.
So, and Driftglass, not to quote the publisher, the former publisher of the Nebraska pastor, but you and I are going to go in a different direction.
We're going to do that. We're going to take a little left turn here.
Yeah, a little left turn. Yeah. We're working on doing a little bit of live video.
Yeah.
And Driftglass is ready. He's ready to go on camera.
I'm ready. I've grown my ZZ Top beard. I have a big pork pie hat.
No.
I have Elton John sunglasses.
No. But we're working on it. We're working on testing software and testing our cameras, and we're going to sit side by side with leopard skin shirts on, and you're going to make declarative statements, and I'm going to sit next to you and go 5 eggs. 5 eggs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's our plan.
It's the diamond and silk of the left, with my pillow sales and credits and discount codes and all that sort of thing. No, it's not. We're just going to sit and talk for 15 minutes on video and see how that goes.
Every once in a while. Because we have the only complaint we've gotten a lot of complaints. That's a lie. But the most consistent complaint we've gotten is we don't do this more often than once a week.
Yeah.
And there's stuff coming flying at us, and we'd appreciate it if you would just, drop a 15-minute, one subject, here's what happened to Dave thing every now and then would be appreciated.
Yeah. And I don't have the time to do this daily, but we're talking about when we can do it in a way that doesn't overlap with Hal Sparks, because we're not idiots.
Right.
But we're going to see what we can do. We want to do this and have more of an opportunity to talk to you. All right. And the last thing, Driftglass, is we often say, if you like this episode, donate $5. If you donate this week, your money will be going to take youngest child out to dinner on Saturday night.
Yeah, that's right.
She is graduating from high school. Mm-hmm. And your donation will pay for a dinner out for youngest child. I said to my 86-year-old father on the phone this week, I said, my youngest child is graduating from high school. I feel old. And my 86-year-old dad said, you are old.
Yes. Well, and I hope he shot back. I don't know if you know this, but my youngest grandchild is graduating from high school this week.
Your youngest grandchild is graduating from high school, Dad.
Yeah. So let me tell you about being old.
Yeah, 86-year-old.
Yeah.
Grandpa. Yeah. But he loves her, and they have a great relationship, the two of them. They do. So that's terrific. All right. Let's do a news roundup, Driftglass. The Bidening continues from ABC News. The Uvalde Police and School District are no longer cooperating with the probe of the Uvalde School, Texas shooting.
Yeah. The House Judiciary Committee called an emergency hearing to consider the Protect Our Kids Act, which is a package of 8 gun control bills that committee chair Jerry Nadler said he intends to bring to the House floor as soon as possible. The omnibus package would increase the legal purchasing age for semi-automatic rifles from 18 to 21, ban the import, sale, manufacture, transfer, or possession of large-capacity magazines, and establish requirements and criminal penalties to regulate the storage of firearms on residential properties. However, even if the package passed the House, it would still face a filibuster by the Senate Republicans, and at least 15 mass shootings have taken place across the United States since the shooting at an elementary school in Uvalde, Texas.
15 since Uvalde.
Since then.
This was the week that Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson blamed critical race theory and wokeness for school shootings.
This is also the week, as we mentioned, that Laura Ingraham asked, why aren't people in general not talking more about the pot psychosis, violent behavior connection, because marijuana might be the real root cause of mass shootings.
This was the week that former Fox News host Megyn Kelly hooked up with America's most prominent privileged white gay Catholic Tory, conservative libertarian phrenologist Andrew Sullivan to whine about trans athletes. Quote, the cultural issue has been co-opted by the radical left, which has taken hold of what was once the gay rights movement.
Yeah.
Oh, he is pulling up the ladder, isn't he?
Oh, yeah. No, his alliance lasts just long enough for him to get what he wants, and then the knife goes right in the back.
I got mine. Go to hell. Right.
In bad courtroom thingies for Republican news, a federal judge has shot down Sarah Palin's request for a new defamation trial against the New York Times. Motion denied, Sarah.
Newsmax's Rob Schmidhead traveled to Ukraine to try to get President Zelensky to repeat the Trump talking point about how Putin's invasion of Ukraine wouldn't have happened if Trump was still in office. Zelensky shut him right down. So apparently Zelensky is still not willing to do propaganda for Donald Trump.
Man, will he never learn? This week, the Supreme Court leak investigation heated up as clerks were asked for their phone records. This is an unprecedented move, and since no laws were actually broken, this sure sounds like unreasonable search and seizure to me.
Videos surfaced showing Republican Party operatives meeting with activists, revealing a multi-pronged strategy to target and overturn votes in Democratic precincts, install trained recruits as poll workers, and put them in direct contact with party attorneys. They care about winning. They don't care about democracy.
At any cost. This week in Trump rally hilarity, one of the Proud Boys was denied entry at the Trump rally, being told nothing with Proud Boy or QAnon symbols will be allowed. He responded, "You're kidding me. The Trump campaign gave us VIP tickets. This is really happening? Can't I ask why Proud Boys aren't allowed?" Yeah, dude. Just hang in there, man.
They don't want QAnon and Proud Boys insignia on the video of the rally.
That's right.
That implicates Trump with the January 6th convictions that are coming down the pike. Yeah.
Yes, they are.
Scary warning from Marco Rubio, so you know it's going to be dumb as toast, okay? Just warning you. Biden will be cutting off Pell Grants, school lunches, and billions of other federal education dollars to any school or college that refuses to follow his new and radical transgender and LGBT policies. Is any of this true? No. Is Marco Rubio running for re-election this year? Yes. That's why it matters.
Did Andrew Sullivan believe every fucking word of it? I'm sure he did. I'm sure he did. Peter Navarro, who is a former Trump aide, got served this week, got served a grand jury subpoena, which did not make him happy.
The European Union has now banned most Russian oil.
And speaking of banned things, J.D. Vance told a Catholic magazine just last year that porn should be restricted to help at, quote, isolated generation thrive. Yeah, J.D. Vance. Good old guy.
Ban porn. In the Catholic Church? Really?
Yeah. Here's some good news in local news.
Okay.
Per the Illinois Economic Policy Institute, the planned expansion of Illinois broadband infrastructure will create 25,000 jobs, boost the economy by billions, and pay for itself in less than a decade. Now, here's an important note about the Illinois Economic Policy Institute. It is not the Illinois Policy Institute, which is a hard right-wing libertarian policy shop that's financially supported from foundations associated with the Koch brothers, the Mercer family, the Uline family, and the Rauner family. The Illinois Economic Policy Institute promotes thoughtful economic growth for businesses and working families and focuses on things like workers' rights, transportation, and fair wages, and has a board of directors made up of labor leaders and small business owners and educators. Two entirely different things.
You read the next one, Driftglass, because this is really you.
Okay. As I mentioned before, sometimes we just watch Fox News for the local political ads, and they are lit. Rodney Davis, our bland, standard issue Republican mope congressman, is now on YouTube promising to end the, quote, socialist madness in Washington. He says he's rated 100% pro-life, and his defender of the Second Amendment clip shows a man that looks like he's in a cop uniform wearing the thin blue line flag patch at a gun range, blasting away with an AR-15. and strolling along. And then the last clip is Rodney Davis strolling along one segment of Trump's big stupid wall, the part that hasn't collapsed, looking up reverently while the voiceover says, Rodney Davis is tough on illegal immigration. He's the true conservative in this race, damn it. The American Dream Federal Action Committee paid for this ad. Now I got to go figure out who the hell they are and which crackpot billionaire family funds them.
Yeah, that's right. Each week, we post to our Facebook page and website an Internet Kitty sent in by you, the listeners. This week's Internet Kitty is Patches. Patches' preferred activity is hiding in any and all tote bags, suitcases, grocery bags, etc., and then popping out to attack you as you walk past unsuspectingly. Ha! Of course, Patches, who is really a cute kitty, and in this picture, his eyes are really dilated because he's been inside the bag for too long, and so he's ready to hop out and get you. And of course, he eats freshly poured cat food, our fake sponsor, for the energy you need to attack, right?
Right.
Whether you serve Pet Store Perfection or Dollar Store Drek, your cats will sit on the kitchen floor and demand that the food they eat is only freshly poured. Freshly poured, freshly poured. Oh, my Lord, it's freshly poured. And you can visit Patches. He's really a darling kitty, but watch out! At our Facebook page and website.
And this is where I should insert the who let the cat out of the bag joke. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to heroically prevent myself from saying something as silly as that.
You can let the cat out of the bag, but don't let the cat get in your suitcase. If you're packing for a trip, Roscoe will leave his scent in the suitcase, and I don't mean that in a nice way.
And then you'll have to do laundry real quick and repack the suitcase because he doesn't want you to
find
go.
Another suitcase.
Yeah.
Because
oh man, strong.
This is the worst smell in the world.
This is some. Well, it's angry cat urine. And
angry cat urine. Yeah. I think that was the name of your band in 1986, wasn't it?
It was. We had that one hit, and then
angry cat urine's one hit. Yes. Mm-hmm. You can send your Internet Kitty, dog, or other pet to us at our email address, proleftpodcast@gmail.com, where you can also write to both of us. Feel free to write us. We love hearing from you. Be aware that if you write us at any of our addresses, we reserve the right to read your email or U.S. Postal Service, go Postal Unions, letter on the air unless you say otherwise. Hashtag DeJoy and Nancy Reagan stamps at the White House during Pride Week.
I can't.
I'm shaking my head. I'm just shaking my head. Don't forget our gourmet coffee guideline. If you can afford to buy an espresso-based beverage for yourself, buy one for us. This is not charity. This is our job. And your donation this week will go to take youngest child out to dinner for her graduation.
For apps and zerts.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. Approximately 1% of our listeners support this podcast with a contribution. You can too. See our website, proleftpod.com, for details. Our PayPal postal address information, it's all there at proleftpod.com. Please share our show on social media. And if you love this podcast, please donate $5. Thank you for doing that. Hey, Driftglass, how are the Internet Kitties doing this week?
Well, Blue Gal, the Internet Kitties are lobbying Amazon Prime to do Night Sky, but with cats.
Let's think about living. Think about living. Let's think about loving. Think about loving. Let's think about the hooping and the hopping and the popping and the lovey-dovey. Let's forget about the wine and the crying, the shooting and the dying, and the fellow with a switchblade knife. Let's think about living. Let's think about life.
The Professional Left Podcast is recorded under a Creative Commons license, copyright 2022, BGBG Productions Incorporated.